evening for District 1, Kern County Supervisor. The American Society for Public Administration is a professional organization of academics and public administrators that promotes ethics in public administration and public administration education. This evening, we're going to have a forum. Each of the candidates will get 2 minutes to make an opening statement. Then I have a series of questions which the candidates have received in advance. And by the way, if some of the candidates did not get the questions, I have copies of them here. I think they all did. All right. And each candidate will get one question which they will be able to answer for 2 minutes, and then each of the other candidates has 1 minute to respond. Ultimately, there will be about a half an hour left over at the end where we will take audience questions, of which I already have 3 or 4 up here. So if everyone is ready, we're ready to begin. And I do have an order of presentation here, which I chose randomly, and the first speaker is Heidi Carter-Escudero.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have technical support?
Yeah, make sure you turn the mics on. If you haven't done so, there's a switch here.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight and taking time out of your busy schedules. And I also appreciate ASPA for hosting this, and also that it's going to be broadcast, because I know a lot of families, it's a lot easier to watch from your home around the kitchen table, serving dinner to your families. I am Heidi Carter-Escudero. I live in Bakersfield at the mouth of the canyon. I am a former television reporter. Spent about 15 years covering issues that included politics, holding accountable the taxpayers, always asking the question, is the money being spent in the right place? So I've spent a lot of time asking those questions as a reporter and holding people in public office accountable for the decisions that they make, especially when it impacts services to the community. The last 6 years, I've been an employee of the Department of Human Services, one of the largest, actually the largest of the county departments, where I have worked on child protective services issues involving seniors, eligibility, and all of the, really when it comes time for an economic crisis, the things that are impacting families on a daily basis. It is an honor to be here again. I think we were just here over the weekend, and my daughters, my twin daughters are 6, and my little Isabella said, "Why can't I go back I want to go to Ridgecrest." They really love the museum, so it's perfect for my 6-year-old. So I am just grateful to be here this evening. It's amazing to have this many people to choose from. So I appreciate your questions tonight. I hope we have an opportunity to talk afterward as well. Thank you.
Dara Stevens.
Usually I stand, but is working well?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dara Stevens. I'm your candidate. Grew up right here in Ridgecrest. Moved here in 1973 with my family. I attended Las Flores, Groves, Murray, and graduated from Burroughs High School. Upon graduation of Burroughs, I joined the United States Marine Corps. Joined the Marines, see the world, spent all 4 years at Camp Pendleton. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I was immediately hired by the Kern County Sheriff. I was one of your deputies for 14 years right here, from 1987 to around 2000. While stationed here, I was periodically assigned as your substation supervisor, where I would supervise the jail, the court, and the staff at the substation. In around 2000, I was promoted as senior deputy, where I was transferred to the Kern Valley substation, assigned as the night supervisor for the Kern Valley area. I would also be the interim supervisor to include the entire east side of Kern County: Roseman, Tehachapi, Mojave, Boron, Ridgecrest, and Kern Valley. Approximately 5 years ago, I started my own private business, Kern River Motors, with my wife in Lake Isabella. I'm currently a resident. The zip code says Weldon, but trust me, I have no neighborhood. I live over 10 miles off the highway. When I started this campaign, I went to the businessmen because they are the job creators. That is where all tax revenue actually comes from, the job creators and their employees. And I asked them what their problems were. Out of everybody's mouth, immediately was regulation in this state. I'd like to, as your supervisor, begin seeing what regulation can be reduced or eliminated. If it needs to stay, it needs to stay at the county level. be the voice of the people, have the information go upward to the state, to the feds, and let them know what is occurring, what is hurting our county. I believe it's my experience as a local resident and my military experience in 25 years as serving you in the county and a private business owner and having contacts between here and the Kern River Valley that I have a wonderful knowledge of what the citizens of Kern County want out of their next supervisor. Thank you.
Roy Ashburn.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Steve, and I want to thank the other candidates for being here and presenting themselves before you, the public. And of course, this is possible because of the leadership of the public administrators in our county and their association. So I want to thank them, and for those who arranged to have our evening broadcast to the community, because that even provides a greater audience for our conversation tonight, which is an important discussion about the future of Kern County. I'm running to be your Kern County supervisor, your representative at the local level of government. I've done this job. I was your county supervisor for 12 years. Then I had the opportunity, with your support, to go to Sacramento as your representative in the State Assembly and the California State Senate. What I bring to this new challenge is a unique set of experiences and qualifications. We've never had a county supervisor who has also served as a California state legislator. And so much of what happens at county government now are those mandates, those rules, those requirements that are handed on to our counties, and then the state picking our pocket and shifting our tax money. So not only will I be able to fight for you as your local representative, but I'll be able to be effective in Sacramento in pushing back against those regulations, mandates, and the financial shift that has occurred so continuously. I'm pleased to be here tonight, and I look forward to the questions.
David Freeland.
Thank you, Steve, and candidates, and certainly the public that took your evening tonight to be with us. I want to say right off the bat that I'm not a politician. Politics really isn't something that drives me, but I really am a public servant. Public servant motivates me. I like to say after graduating from the U.S. Forest Service, after 34 years of public service, I graduated as a district ranger, actually. I managed a 665,000-acre ranger district here in the Sequoia National Forest. I managed multi-million-dollar budgets, and I had a large workforce of somewhere over 300 people, both professional and technical people. Two-thirds of them were probably wildland firefighters, but I also had foresters and biologists and archaeologists and hydrologists and the like. I graduated from California State University in Sacramento back in the olden days with a degree in natural resources. After I retired from the Forest Service, though, I was really honored because Supervisor John McQuiston recruited me and said, Dave, with somebody with your talent and skills, I would really like you to consider helping the county on complex federal land management issues. So I did. I became a private consultant and helped the county on at points of time to help through these issues, and I was very honored by that. Just to be sure, I always try to be a man of integrity, and so I've talked to the county since, though, and we both agreed that I was going to terminate my contract with them because I don't want any appearance of conflict of interest with the county of Kern and me running for county supervisor. I've been a volunteer for over 30 years. I'm not somebody that just signed up to be a volunteer. I've had leadership positions in county-wide positions. I'm on the Kern County Wildlife Commission, MCAB they call it, Kern County Emergency Medical Advisory Care Board. I've been president of the Kern Valley Exchange Club twice, Rotary Club Rotarian, and I was a hospital foundation president back in the late 90s where through my leadership we raised over $100,000 to give for needed medical equipment at Kern Valley High School Hospital. My family saved the best for last, and my wife is sitting in the audience. My number one supporter, Debbie, an Air Force brat. Not good to say in a Navy town, but she is. And she's been with me side by side, and I have a very good group of volunteers. We're all volunteers. We're grassroots. I'm running because I have a passion for public service. I'm known as somebody that works well with people. I'm a good listener. I love problem solving with constituents together. And when I say I'm going to get something done, I get it done. And it may take a little long to get it done, but I get it done. And I pride myself on that. So, again, thank you very much for listening to me.
Mick Gleason.
Thanks. Hi, how are you? Thank you for coming. My name is Mick Gleason, and I'm running for your county supervisor. We need leaders. We don't need politicians. Let me tell you, most of you know who I am. Let me give you a little bit about me. I graduated from the University of Notre Dame in 1976. I married my beautiful wife, Robin, who's here in 1979. We've been married for 32 years. I have 3 great kids. One of them's here tonight, Patty. Thanks for coming. My other 2 boys, one's in Phoenix. He's a professional golfer. And the other one's getting ready to graduate from Cal Poly in June. I also have a granddaughter, just born in December 13th. I did remember, Patrick. So my family's here. This is our home. When we retired from the Navy, we dropped anchor in Ridgecrest because this is our home. This is where we want to be. We could have gone anywhere. We had no debt. We had a free, whatever we wanted to do. Our kids were grown up. We could have gone anywhere. Boston, Europe, Africa. Ridgecrest is where we came. Ridgecrest is where we bought a home. People still can't figure it out, but it's the truth. This is our home. This is what we love, and this is why I'm here tonight. But after I got married in 1979, in 1981, I joined the Navy. I spent 27 years in the Navy. If the Navy can do anything, it teaches people how to be leaders. I don't care if you're flying a jet or you're turning a screwdriver, if you're an officer or an enlisted. If you're going to succeed in the Navy, you have to succeed as a leader, period. It's that simple. I got a master's degree in astronautical engineering from Navy Postgraduate School. I flew in the initial strikes of Desert Storm. I flew in the final strikes on the highway to hell during Desert Storm, and 52 strikes in between. My final tour in the Navy, I was commanding officer of this base. That was a huge job, a great responsibility, and a lot of fun. We managed about 7,500 people. We managed 1.1 million acres. We helped control 20,000 square miles of unencumbered upon airspace. We managed the fire department. We managed the police department. We built the roads. We built the buildings. Just about everything that a first county supervisor will do, I've done. Upon my retirement, we retired here. We helped start the China Lake Alliance. I'm the executive director of the China Lake Alliance. China Lake Alliance is a group of, most of you know, is a group of community leaders. Our purpose is to support the Navy right here at China Lake. We do things on this side of the fence line that they can't do over there. So we interact with federal decision makers, state decision makers, people of influence, and we help develop strategies and do things that the Navy can't do, and we support them on a regular basis. Many of you have seen events where we've hosted many political figures through the past couple of years. I also participate in the Chamber of Commerce. I do the Indian Wells Valley EDC. I do the Rotary. I do Vice President of the Boys and Girls Club. I've been just about every committee in this town. So everybody knows that I'm all in for Ridgecrest. That's why I'm doing it. My platform is about economic development. My platform is about jobs. And my platform is about... time. Okay. All right. I got to the best stuff, though. I still got to go. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Sam Ramirez.
Well, I will try to stay under the time before I pound that gavel.
My name avoid pounding the gavel.
I haven't had a chance to meet many of you. As you know, the 1st District is the 3rd largest in all of California. I'm a council member from the city of Delano. I'll give you a brief bio and how I came to Delano, because I wasn't born there. My parents divorced when I was 10 years old. I was born in Los Angeles. And my mom's coworker, she's a nurse. And she said, if you're ever looking for a place to raise a family, I grew up in a small town called Delano. And so we didn't have any family there, didn't have any friends there. There was a position open at the hospital. She packed up a U-Haul with 4 children, 11, 10, 9, and 4. And we made Delano our home. Now, more than 20 years later, 3 of those children have college degrees. She bought our first home. She's still the hardest working nurse at Delano Regional Medical Center. And her son became mayor of that very community. I was elected when I was 26 years old. There were 7 candidates. Nobody gave me a chance. And so I thought, you know what? I just need to work hard. I need to share my vision with the community, and I need to work hard. And that's what I did. And on the night of the election, after walking and working hard, I lost by 53 votes. And when you start to think, what I could have done more. And then somebody said, no, there's still absentee and provisional ballots that need to be counted. Because a lot of those military families love to vote by absentee vote. And so for 27 days, I didn't know whether I was in or out. And they processed a batch of votes. Out of 27,000 ballots needed to be processed, I was only down 22 votes. And a week later, I was only down 21 votes. And on the final day, when they posted the results online after 5 p.m., I won by 17 votes. I got sworn in the very next week, and it's been an amazing ride ever since then. Out of 7 candidates, I was the 3rd vote getter. And we've been able to do some great things in the city of Delano. I came in, with some fresh ideas, and I was met with some reality as well. Because it's easy to say things on the campaign trail about what you could do or what you will do. But then you're faced with law issues and fiscal issues. And regardless, we were able to do some great things. And 4 years later, when I ran for re-election in 2008, I was the #1 vote getter. And I think that was a product of some of the work that I was able to do with my colleagues and the city of Delano. I've been a teacher for 7 years. I left teaching about a few years ago. There's not a lot of money in teaching. I love the hours, love the kids. I may just want to buy a lottery ticket and see how my luck turns out with, I think it's at $500 million now. That could solve some of the budget issues that Ridgecrest has. At least I'd try to help. But ultimately, I'm running for Kern County Supervisor, and I take it seriously. I have a degree in government, began a public policy master's at Cal State Bakersfield. It's ironic because Dr. Daniels was one of my first professors there 6 years ago. And my time changes. He still had no hair then. But I've been elected official for 8 years. I've studied for this position, and I believe that I can hit the ground running, and I believe I can do some great work for the city of Delano, for the city of Ridgecrest, and all of the 1st District. And so I look forward to hearing and learning more about your concerns. When I was originally thinking about doing it, I just got engaged. Regardless of how this election turns out, I'm getting married in 109 days, and I'm excited. And thankfully, I asked her to marry me before I told her I was running for Kern County Supervisor. But she knows how serious I am about public service, and I couldn't do it without her and the support of my family. And so I'm excited, and I'm ready, and I'm willing to help in any way that I can for the 1st District.
And last but certainly not least, Chip Holloway.
I think the time's up to about 12 and a half minutes now, so I feel really comfortable. I'd like to thank ASPA for recognizing that the distance from Bakersfield to Ridgecrest is the same distance as Ridgecrest to Bakersfield. A lot of you folks in Kern County forget that sometime. Where's Lorelei? And I'd also like to thank Roy for showing up, because that means I'm not the shortest candidate for once. So that's always a good thing. I've been sitting up here for 14 years. As a city councilman, right here in this room, as a city councilman in Ridgecrest. And I've held every position from council member to vice mayor, mayor pro tem, and 2 terms as mayor. And during the last 14 years, I've made it a point to get involved in organizations and associations at the county, the state, and the federal level to better educate myself on behalf of the community. I've also tried to develop positive and productive relationships. And I've also tried to seek out opportunities that wouldn't otherwise be obvious to those who've never held elective office or just sit around hoping that good things would happen. I've dedicated my life, an enormous amount of time, and my personal financial well-being to do whatever I could to make things better, hopefully, for this community, this county, or this state. In that 14-year period, I'm not going to bore you with the whole resume because many of you in Ridgecrest know my resume, but I'll just point out a few things. In the last 14 years, I've served on Kern COG. I've been a director on East Kern Air Pollution Control District, and I've been heavily involved with the League of California Cities. I've served on the administrative services, the employee relations, the housing, community and economic development, the public safety, and the revenue and taxation committees. I'm also very proud that I'm the first council member ever from the city of Ridgecrest who was elected to the executive board of the League of California Cities. But the thing I'm most proud of is for 25 years I've been a self-employed businessman. And what that means is I understand cash flow, and sometimes I understand the lack of cash flow, and the time value of money. But more importantly, I understand the struggles and the fears that our businesses in this community face, in this county face, day in and day out. The one thing that I try to emphasize as a local elected official since the day I got into office is we in government create nothing. And if we're ever going to create a new revenue dollar for government, we have to create more revenue dollars for our businesses and residents. And that's my goal as a county supervisor. The number one job problem facing Kern County is jobs. And we need to reevaluate the restrictions and the regulations that we keep putting on businesses that don't allow them to grow. Government is never the solution, but far too often currently government has become the problem. So much of what we do in local government is mundane and repetitive. It's procedural and it's oversight, but economic development is different. That's why I got excited about government in the first place, and that's why I'm excited about the potential of Kern County, because we have the resources. We just need to get out and promote them and get them in a position to be successful. And that's why I'm running for First District Supervisor.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to read the first question here. And in the Ridgecrest, Indian Wells Valley, another round of base relocations and closures is in our future. Name 3 things you feel the county can do to assist the community in retaining jobs at China Lake and Edwards that the county is not already doing. Darris Stevens.
Yes, sir. I addressed this particular situation with John McQuiston himself, and actually with the planning department, the director here. The county is doing everything the Navy has requested to make sure that their mission is being completed. If there was something more the county would do, I guarantee you Mr. McQuiston, Supervisor McQuiston, would be doing it. I think what we have to realize here in Ridgecrest that we should not make sure that this is a China Lake economy or Ridgecrest economy. We have to think outside the box, outside the valley, and think of it as an East Kern economy. Since I've lived in both the Ridgecrest and the Kern River Valley and have a business up there, I am very aware of what is called financial leakage, money that is created in one place and spent in another. The financial leakage in the Kern River Valley is terrific. They go to Bakersfield to do their shopping when they could be coming here. I'd create a plan to inform the citizens what is available for them over here. Also, I'd like to do recruiting of retirees from the base and from this community. A lot of people want to retire from here, and they move out of town, out of county, out of state, when you have the Kern River Valley and surrounding areas where they could go. So in my vision, to create an East Kern economy to strengthen the businesses here, because there are jobs available on the base that aren't even being filled, because some of the young professionals, believe it or not, they don't want to move to the desert like we do, and like we like to live here. I even moved to a smaller community. So the base would have to tell us what else they needed done, and the county will comply. I'm not going to tell the base what they need done. That's their business. They're going to tell us, and we will comply. Mr. McQuiston says we've complied, so they'll have to come up with 3 reasons. East Kern economy, divert the financial leakage to the Kern River Valley, and they help create the good business base here. In return, perhaps we can get some recruitment of retirees to the KRV, Kern River Valley. And because what I like about retirees, they bring a paycheck with them, and they don't have a habit of committing any crime. Thank you.
1-minute response, Roy Ashburn.
When we're talking about China Lake and Edwards Air Force Base, and in fact the entire complex that makes up our desert community for the military, we're talking about a national treasure. And we cannot and must not be passive about what is occurring in Washington with the conversation about the military reductions that certainly have been outlined by the Obama administration. We must be proactive, we must be aggressive, we must be strong in defending China Lake and Edwards and the other military installations on the desert. And I think we can learn a lot about leadership going forward from what occurred the last BRAC round, where I chaired the Senate Select Committee on our bases and military facilities and worked side by side Leon Panetta, who was Governor Schwarzenegger's special representative for California in the base closure process. We testified at every opportunity. We presented California's united front, pulling our communities together, working very closely with the leadership community here, and we were successful. And we'll be successful again. The experience that I've had prepares me in a unique way as we look forward to the next round that I do believe will come and will pose a threat for the potential of realignment or closure of the bases here in our area. But make no mistake about it, China Lake is irreplaceable international security. And so we will have a very strong position of leadership and a very strong position in the next BRAC round. But it's something about which we must be very, very strong and very aggressive.
Response, David Freeland.
China Lake Naval Weapons Center is the lifeblood of Indian Wells Valley. I recognize that. I live over in the Kern Valley, and I know that. I have friends that work at China Lake, a lot of friends that travel over. I would be an active county supervisor in those BRAC reviews. I've been to Washington, D.C. many times on issues to work similar to this. And you've got to walk the halls, and you've got to join up with your other elected officials, like your congressman, to make sure that China Lake survives. And not only survives, but it's enhanced. And so I'm just not going to leave it up to the county or anything to do it. I'm going to actively, as a county supervisor, go for it. However, in the meantime, diversity. Again, I live in the Kern River Valley. Our recreation and tourism is our economic engine, just like DOD is over here. And I'm concerned about that because if the canyon closes, gas prices go sky high like they are now, whatever, our recreation tourism is in jeopardy. It goes down. Our small businesses suffer dearly. Ridgecrest area needs to continue to consider what are the other options. I know it's a beautiful area over here, and I know filming is a big deal. The filming industry comes over, and I've seen some of the movies that were filmed in the Indian Wells Valley. And we've got to continue to look for windows of opportunity to diversify our businesses. The other thing is the small businesses constantly have to be shored up. These onerous regulations and these fees, and I'm done. Okay. That's the paper.
Mick Gleason.
Go, Mick. You better get the camera.
Thanks.
I'm just on a roll.
Okay, the county's been in the past very cooperative and very good partner for us with in terms of BRAC. I was involved heavily with Lorelei. Thank you very much for all you did with Clump, with the AQs, with encroachment issues to preserve the integrity of our airspace and our airfield, because that is a very important quality when the BRAC teams go and look at military utility and viability. There are many bases in this country that don't pass that muster. We do, and that's why we are advantaged, and that's why we did well in 2005, and we need to maintain that environmental purity in the way we do business. So thanks, Lorelei, for everything you did. John also has come up with an economic development data analysis recently, just funded and passed to the China Lake Alliance. We're using that to build a database to support the surrounding economies to justify business plans for moving to this area and migrating work from other bases in any BRAC decision to come to China Lake. It's been very profitable for us. The one thing John has not done, the county has not done, is join the China Lake Alliance. So Lorelei, please tell them, join the China Lake Alliance. The China Lake Alliance is right up what we do at BRAC. I mean, that is a focus for us, and so I'm heavily engaged with that. I have the connections in D.C. I work very closely with the senators and with the congressmen and with Sacramento and with Bakersfield. So I got it.
Sam Ramirez.
Well, ultimately, when BRAC comes up at the federal level, we're in competition because every community is also rallying to protect their base and protect their interest. Thankfully, Kern County has some recognized great military facilities in our own backyard, and we need to make sure that we always protect them. We need to protect them. We need to be proactive. We need to be ahead of the curve. We need to make sure that we inform all stakeholders at every level, whether it be the school districts that will be affected, whether it be the cities that will be affected. You know, the military is the largest employer in Kern County. And so we need to make sure that we always protect that. And we need to do everything that we can. You know, I've seen at times in Bakersfield, the community rallies to save a sports team. You know, I've seen communities rally to send sports teams to tournaments out of state. You know, we need to make sure that we always are on alert and ready to protect and to protect our interests. And it is making sure that those world-class military facilities stay open and stay active and stay and thrive in our own backyard. And, you know, that as a supervisor, I think that there's a great opportunity to partner, to lead the way if needed, or to partner with other entities in the event that that's what we need to do. You know, because we're all in this together, and what happens one place affects us all.
Chip Holloway.
The commitment, the first thing we got to do is one of us up here is going to have to convince two other supervisors to make sure that commitment from Kern County stays in place. I've witnessed some of the budget hearings that are going on at the county level, and they're no prettier than what's happening in the city of Ridgecrest. And Sam said it, I'm glad you said it because you're from the other side of the hill, that many people in Kern County do not realize that the number one employer in Kern County is the Department of Defense. And they don't see the value of the base, and they don't understand the problems with encroachment. And encroachment comes in many ways. Mick pointed out Lorelei. Lorelei, you also were key in the joint land use study, that if the Department of Defense would get it out of their hands and get it back to us, if somebody could help us with that, that would be convenient. But that joint land use study, when I was in Atlanta as mayor and we were going through the BRAC process, that was brought out as a model of what bases should do around the country to protect their viability and to protect against encroachment. Because the number one reason bases are losing in BRAC is because of encroachment. Who would have known that a windmill could cause a problem with encroachment? And Lorelei did another thing on her planning for the alternative energy programs in the county. She did the red, yellow, green map, which tells people right up in advance where you can build and where you can't build. The value of that is incredible because it shows the Navy and the Department of Defense, we're thinking of ahead and where they can go and where they can't go, but we're on their team, which is not the case in many parts of this country. And the other thing that we could do is the Kern County Economic Development Strategic Plan points out as one of its industrial clusters aerospace and defense. And they recognize China Lake Technologies as a great opportunity to improve that cluster. We at the city of Ridgecrest, the base has been working with China Lake Technologies, not China Lake Alliance, this is China Lake Technology, which is another organization. What they're basically trying to do is take patents from that side of the fence, bring them on this side of the fence, create applications that don't necessarily meet the military application, but may meet a commercial application. The more businesses we get on both sides of that fence that benefit from the work and the facilities on that side of the fence, the better we protect and insulate both our bases, Edwards and China Lake. I see you with that thing again. Give me that's mine. Give me that.
Heidi.
Last but not least, Mick mentioned something that's really critical right now. All of us know that the BRAC process will almost always favor, like Roy said, the jewels that we have out here, China Lake and Edwards. These are unique situations, the isolation of the base. But right now, they're discussing taking away the preserved fly zone. This is a discussion that's happening right now that's separate from the BRAC process that's happening right now. We need to have an active voice to make sure that we don't have commercial flights all of a sudden flying over this preserved airspace, because all of a sudden the jewel that we are and the resources and the reasons we did so well in the last BRAC process will no longer be there. So that's one of the things we have to pay attention to right now. We can't wait for the BRAC process because this is happening now. Also, when we do bring resources, everybody was ready the last time. The BRAC favored us. And we all thought we were going to grow. Well, we did, but not as much as we thought. Because, again, who is here to be employed? Do we have people here ready to take those jobs? Do we have people graduating with engineering degrees from our own universities, staying in our own communities? Because it's a lot easier to convince us to come back after retiring or going somewhere else for 20 years than it is to convince people to come here because they don't understand the beauty of this desert. So we do have to make sure that we're educating people here locally, and we have the resources in place so when we do get through this BRAC process and we are one of the bases that are preserved and those other resources are being brought here, we're ready to fill those jobs. And we also have to make sure it's constant, a strong, unified voice from all of our elected officials. I don't care what party you belong to. If you're not speaking in a unified voice, then it's politics and not people. We have to make sure that whether we're Republicans or Democrats in Sacramento, Republicans working in the federal government, or whoever it is on this nonpartisan seat on the Board of Supervisors, we have that unified voice preserving our resources.
Thank you.
See, we should have sat on the end. We got the corner of our eye.
Water quantity and quality is a concern throughout Kern County. While laws affecting water are made at the state level, what, as a county supervisor, will you do to address water issues in the 1st District? Roy Ashburn.
Well, water is an essential to our lives and certainly is important in the Indian Wells Valley as an ongoing concern because of the potential for overdraft. We're constantly mindful of this precious commodity, and we know also that throughout California we have a water conversation almost continuously because of all of the competing interests for the precious water resources in our state. And you've correctly identified in the question that it's the state of California that is most directly involved in California's water future. As you know, I have always been an advocate for developing the water retention facilities, constructing the dams, the reservoirs, and the infrastructure to take water where it is plentiful in California and to deliver it where it is needed in the agricultural areas and in the population centers of our state. It is a very complex, ongoing issue and concern. With respect to what the county supervisor for this district must do is to be a very strong advocate both within Kern County and in Sacramento to make sure that our water resources are protected, that they are enhanced, and that we do everything possible to preserve them for the activities that take place here and for the future. I would point again to the fact that not only have I been your county supervisor, I have fulfilled that role, but I also have been for 14 years your representative in the state capitol. And so when you're trying to communicate with state government, I have the experience of having been your supervisor and having the knowledge and contacts in the state capitol as well.
1 minute response, David Freeland.
Again, a county supervisor's got to be an active participant. Water is the lifeblood of our county, and agriculture is 3 or 4 in the nation. And so, again, you have to get alliances. You have to work with your state officials like Gene Fuller and Shannon Grove, because a lot of your water issues are state regulated and they're also federal regulated. And so, I would want to work with those folks. I want to make sure that water delivery to especially West Kern County is sustainable and it's adequate for those agricultural lands. Ag, all of us, we like to eat, and I'm one of those guys that like to eat. And agriculture is jobs, and so for those facts, we've got to fight for our water rights down in this area. There's going to be a hard-headed minnow issue all along as more and more people come to California, and water is going to be in such demand. No, did you hit the thing? Okay. I thought Sam was over there playing a trick on me. Yeah.
Mick Gleason.
Thanks. Roy, we are in overdraft right now. Our aquifers are filling at about 9 to 11 million cubic acre feet per year, and we're withdrawing 28 million acre feet. We're in trouble now in this valley. We need to get off our butts, and we need to get active in finding solutions for that now, because our kids in 10 years are going to be faced with a problem that they don't want to deal with. So there are options on the table. None of them are pretty. But what we need to do in this immediate Indian Wells Valley is to solve that problem, come together, put the emotions on the sideline, get diverse opinions, get the facts on the table, find out what the facts are, and deal with them, and make sense of and get a plan and a strategy to fix that problem, because it's critical. Water's critical in Kernville. That Isabella Dam is probably, in my mind, one of the top 3 issues we have to solve in terms of the dam and the leaking that it's doing. Repairing that dam, it's critical. We've got to get a plan. The draft EIS is out now. I recommend that you all read it, get to know it, get to love it, get to live it, because it's... I'm not done. I'm just on a roll.
Sorry. Sam Ramirez.
Oh, there's a sign along the 99 freeway that says, food grows where water flows. And they've been talking about water issues for more than 20 years. Every governor for the last 25 years have talked about it. Unfortunately, the people in Sacramento over the last 20 years have failed us, have failed us as a community, has failed us as a first district in terms of making sure that there's adequate water supply for the future. In the fall, there was supposed to be a water bond, and it's been postponed potentially for another 2 years, to make sure, and we can continue to kick the can down the road. But there are some major issues that confront us. When industry wants to come in, they need to make sure that there's an adequate water supply. Our agriculture needs to make sure that there's an adequate water supply, and even quality of water, because it's not just enough to have water; it needs to have quality. I remember a few years ago, President Bush lowered the arsenic level from 50 parts per billion to 10 parts per billion, and it left many cities struggling.
Chip Holloway.
He's just going to knock you on the head.
I don't want to be repetitive because a lot of what's been said I'm agreeable to, but John McQuiston, I don't know if he came up with this term himself. He's famous for a lot of colloquialisms, but whiskey is for drinking and water is for fighting, and that's what's been happening for the last 50 years in the state of California. One thing I would do is I would try to go work with CSAC, which is the California State Association of Counties, which is the equivalent of the League of Cities, which I work on, and I would start trying to divert money from high-speed rail, which is an absolute luxury at this point, and go work on our levee system and get the Bay Delta Conservation Plan enacted. There's federal legislation trying to get this going forward. Senator Rubio is trying to bring a bill forward, SB 250, that I haven't read enough about the bill, but it's at least some action. The state, when Roy was up there, came this close to bonding for a water project, and then for whatever reason, they couldn't agree and they didn't get anything done. But this is a problem waiting to happen. It's not only supply, but you guys were with me when we went through Hurricane Katrina. The disaster from an earthquake from our levee system would be devastating. It would be a $40 billion hit. I think my 1 minutes are a lot shorter than that.
No. As a matter of fact, it's not. Heidi Carter-Escudero.
I'm glad that Roy pointed out that he was at the state level, because at the state level is where they decided that Bush's levels on arsenic weren't good enough. We had to have a higher standard in California, and unfortunately, no one fought that battle. And we needed that battle fought because the arsenic levels forced us to build new facilities here in Ridgecrest. When they probably... Is it safer? It was the same water. It was the same water, a standard changed, and the cost impact was felt locally. We need to make sure that we're not randomly selecting these levels just so California can look better than the nation on their standards. It seems a little ridiculous sometimes. But even more importantly, and I'm sticking to the Ridgecrest water because I think we're going to be talking about water allocation at another time, but we have to look closely at how we're using our water in Ridgecrest. We are in a desert. And the nice thing about Ridgecrest is you don't really have to tell most people around here. They don't pretend like Las Vegas does that you live in an oasis. Most people do a good job on water conservation, but we will have to look closely at how we're using the resources we have.
Dara Stevens.
Thank you. There's a lot of concern about BRAC, but I'd like people to think no water, no base. And that's something that should really cause people to start thinking about how important it is to conserve. If we're running out of water at the rate that's been explained here, that probably ought to be one of our number one priorities regarding employment and the survival of this base. So there's a couple of ways to save water. Recently I was at the home show, and the water company was there, and they have plans that I think should be implemented for zero-scaping, where you don't have to even run a garden hose. You just water your cactus now and then, or what have you, the natural flora and other imported cactus plants, and your yard looks great. If that's what's necessary, the tough choice is to keep this base here, then that's what you're going to have to do. The roads department also plays a part in this, which I think was an accidental error regarding water. I spoke to a gentleman in Kern who said he could not get his property subdivided because it needed to be paved, which cost him $300,000 a mile.
I recognize that 1 minute is not a long time.
That's correct.
Another question. Thank you for those answers.
Thank you.
Healthcare costs of jailed inmates and the growing deficit of Kern Medical Center are specific weekly issues for the Board of Supervisors. What are your plans for addressing these issues? David Freeland.
It's interesting that I'll just say it, but this is what the news media call it. Obamacare is in the Supreme Court right now, and it's going to be interesting to see in the next 3 weeks, or when they make a decision on that care, what that's going to mean to all of us, because that's going to have a direct effect on our hospitals and what can be provided and what can be provided. So I think, we're going to have to kind of stay tuned on some of those things. But, a lot of the hospitals, the one I'm at in the Kern River Valley, it suffers dearly. It just does not have the income to sustain it. And a lot of it's because of the regulations again. These earthquake regulations that have just come out recently are not affordable. We've got an extension. But it's just like in everything, and pretty much everything I want to talk about is these onerous and costly regulations are killing our small businesses and our hospitals. And so we've got to get a handle on those things. And if you're small business owners out there, I hope you can relate to this. And again, that's something I really want to work on. And it really has an effect on Kern Medical Center. A lot of people go there, and they also go in the emergency and for non-emergency reasons. We've got to get a handle on those kinds of things, too. There's too many taxpayers paying for people that don't have insurance. And we'll see. I'm a freedoms guy, rights guy, and I don't really like to see Obamacare coming out with things that you have to buy insurance. It's like you have to buy a car, or you have to buy this or that. I don't believe in that. However, one thing, though, if people buy that insurance, at least they're going to start paying for themselves, and that should have a direct positive effect on places like Kern Medical Center.
All right. Mick Gleason, 1 minute response.
1 minute, okay. Kern Medical Center is operating at a deficit of about $5 million. In the whole this year, $75 million. Last week, the Board of Supervisors sent $5 million over to pay salaries, overhead, capital expenditures, because the state refuses, or they're deferring their Medi-Cal payments, and they're not supporting the activities that are going on at Kern Medical Center. So we're in the hole $75 million out of our general fund in the county. That's money that goes to paving roads. That's money that goes to building water treatment facilities, sewer things, all that kind of stuff that we need the money for is getting deferred because the state refuses to comply with their agreements, what they promise to do, what they're on the hook to do. They're not doing it. In terms of inmates, another factor for the Kern Medical Center losing money is people just going in there without insurance and not paying. They get in the medical services, and they're just not paying the services due to lack of insurance or lack of cash. So those are the two primary reasons. As far as inmates goes, if a guy gets a headache and he's in a jail block, They got to take him out. They got to put him in an ambulance, bring 3 armed guards with him, bring him to the hospital, get a complete physical, and go backwards. So out of balance.
Sam Ramirez.
I definitely think that when it comes to health care, I think we need to make sure that we always take care of our most vulnerable. And our most vulnerable are seniors and their children. I think that there's a lot that we can do to be more efficient and be more effective. I think that there's opportunities to partner with private physicians, private facilities. In regards to inmate care, it's unfortunate that those that are playing by the rules, working hard, don't get care, but yet an inmate receives better health care than those that are outside of it. And my focus and my energy and my attention will be serving those that need the medical facilities, need medical care. I think that we can do a lot more to prevent illness. I think we can do a lot more. Some of the most biggest drains on our system are things like diabetes that can be prevented, things like heart disease that can be prevented, and I think that we can do more to offset those costs.
Chip Holloway.
The inmate health care issues somewhat out of the county's hands because that health care is mandated by a receiver from the federal government because the state of California got sued. One of the problems of the new realignment is we're not only getting more prisoners than we ever expected at a 2-to-1 ratio dumped into Kern County, but these prisoners are coming into Kern County at older ages than we ever expected with health problems that nobody ever foreseen, so that Kern medical problem's only going to get bigger. Mick talked about $5 million evidently 2 weeks ago. Yesterday, they got a $12.5 million loan from Kern County because supposedly if they give $12.5 million to pay their bills, the state's going to reimburse them $24 million. And as a victim of redevelopment, I wouldn't give the state anything, expecting anything in return. The one thing that's on my brochure that the state had years ago, and it was an idea that wasn't an original idea by me, but it was told to me by Dr. Cosner here in Ridgecrest, who many of you know, who served on the Kern Health Board. It was an experiment done in San Diego County probably 15 years ago, and we talk about the emergency rooms being overrun by people that don't necessarily have emergencies. So one thing I'd like to institute is a $5 copay for non-emergency room visits or non-emergency visits, and I think to stop that influx of those. Okay, you had to do.
Heidi.
Indigent care is a responsibility of the county of Kern, so long as we have a medical center that belongs to us. The other counties have looked at the idea of, some counties have shut down their county hospitals. I don't think that's the right solution. I think what we have to realize is that it is a state problem. They are not only not paying the bills that have been accumulated, but they are continuing to reduce their reimbursement rates below what the cost of care is. And that is an issue that we have to work hard on to make sure that the state is paying their bills. It's our money anyway. They take it from us in Kern County up to the state, and then they reduce it and give it back to us. About a third of what we send up there gets to come back. So we need to start working on making sure we are getting reimbursed at the appropriate rate. Also, it is a training hospital. It's an amazing training hospital, yet people don't elect to have care there. And in fact, there are policies in place to prevent people who are fully insured, like myself, from having back surgeries at KMC. Another idea that's been discussed is employees going to KMC. Yeah, well, I've only broke it once. I've only broke the rule once.
Dara Stevens.
Yes, I'm actually the only one probably in here that has dealt with that directly. I was a supervisor at the CRF, the jail facility down there in Bakersfield. And the problems are people turn themselves in with warrants so they can go get their free medical care. Also, when they're in custody, if they get hurt, 3 deputies do not follow them, but at least 1 deputy goes with them unless they're violent. If it's a state employee, 2 deputies go with them. Not only is it a cost regarding the hospital, but it's a cost regarding the overtime for the deputy sheriffs. I'd have 12 people on staff. I could lose 3 to 4 before the end of the shift, and they're all at the hospital working overtime watching an inmate. So I would go to the hospital myself, as I did in uniform as your senior deputy, to see what was taking so long, to see if we can streamline this process for our inmates. As far as KMC, they cannot turn anyone away. No one in this country, no hospital at all can turn someone away. And that is what's causing some of the huge deficits. We could actually use more urgent care facilities. for the minor issues. Thank you.
Go ahead and finish your sentence, yes. Roy Ashburn.
Well, it's very clear that the issue is the financing of medicine, and that is more than a Kern County conversation. It's a national conversation. And the finger has been pointed here to the state of California. The state is running a massive deficit. That's a deficit that all of us have a share in and a concern about because of the relationship between the state in financing medical care for those that don't have the means and the federal financing for medical care. As has been pointed out, many of the standards for care for inmates have been set by the state, and when those in the prisoner rights world decided that that care was not adequate, they went to court. And the judges have imposed the standard of care, which is very, very expensive. What we need to do is grow the economy. We need jobs and opportunities for people so that California's economy can recover, so that tax revenue can recover, so that many of these issues can be addressed.
Thank you for your answers. What ideas would you have for promoting a more business-friendly climate in California? Mick Gleason. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Oh, there you go. No, I got no answer. What do you mean 2 minutes? No. You caught me.
What, a lifeline?
Well, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff we're doing. In a general sense, I think it's critical that we reduce the regulation that we have, the burdensome regulation that is ineffective. It doesn't do the job. It inhibits growth, and it prevents people from making a profit and making money and hiring people. Just the other day, I was at a store here locally. A gentleman received, I was knocking on the door saying hi. A gentleman received a huge bill from the Air Quality Board of Sacramento. The purpose of the bill was to pay a fine, which he had to pay because he violated diesel emission standards in 2009 and 2010 because his trucks weren't adjusted properly. He didn't know anything about this. It was a bill out of the blue, and he threatens to knock him out of business. It was a huge bill. So we went to the top, and we're arguing for him. We're trying to get that relieved. There's another issue. I was at a barber shop in Delano. A guy's afraid to turn on his water because his bill is already $70, and he knows if he turns on his water in his barber shop, it's going to skyrocket. Regulations is stifling, is handcuffing our business. We've got to improve the regulatory environment so we can let businesses expand. Taxes, we've got to do the best we can with promoting a tax-friendly environment, coordinating with state officials and federal officials and city officials to make sure that we don't unnecessarily make poor decisions like raising taxes when they don't need to be raised. We need to keep taxes in a sane level. As a matter of fact, let me say this. We pay about 70 cents per gallon an excise tax on a gallon of gasoline today. And then you pay 7% sales tax on that 70 cents. We're getting crushed with taxes. We're going to knock it off. We're going to allow create a pro-business environment, loosen regulations, lighten the tax loads, and let businesses prosper. Thank you.
All right. Sam Ramirez, 1 minute response.
Before we can, make California business friendly, I think our focus should be on making Kern County business friendly. I think that there are many opportunities to do that. And we got to understand that a lot of times Kern County isn't a primary market. It's not Southern California. It's not the Bay Area. A lot of times it's not even a secondary market. Like places like Fresno. And so we need to compete. We need to make sure that we're competitive. We need to make sure that our impact fees are competitive. The city of Irvine just deferred their impact fees for home builders and commercial projects. That makes us more competitive. Cities, the downturn in this economy should teach us a valuable lesson, and it's to think and act differently than we've ever thought before, because the money is not there, and we need to make sure that we promote ourselves. And in order to do that, we need to be competitive. We need to make sure that red tape is eliminated or minimized. In the city of Delano, there's construction going on in every corner of Delano, and those things didn't just happen overnight, or because they happened because we were aggressive. We offered incentives. We have enterprise zones. We used to have redevelopment agencies, but we no longer have that, and so we make sure that we're competitive.
Chip Holloway.
I wanted that for the 2-minute question. The single greatest thing we could do to improve the business climate in Kern County is succeed from California and join Nevada. I just read that we were number 3rd ranked worst state in the country to do business. And we've got, I see county budgets, I see city budgets, and the first thing we want to do at the county level or any level of government when we get in a budget crisis is cut funding to areas that create revenue. I said this earlier, you cannot create one new revenue for a government entity unless you create new revenue for the businesses and residents in that community. And these burdens that we're putting on our business people and encouraging them to leave, 271 businesses left the state of California last year. 2 million residents. We had a net loss of 2 million residents in the state of California last year. All those people provide revenue that provide the services that we want as taxpayers. That's about a 10-minute question.
Yes, it is. I agree. Heidi, Carter-Escudero.
You took my Nevada line. It's just over the hill. Kern County is actually doing a pretty good job luring businesses in. In fact, we're doing such a good job that Tejon Ranch and Shafter were competing for the same business. We have very aggressive competition going on right now, and that's what we need. We need to not only get rid of regulation, we need to make sure our permitting process is business friendly, because with all of the requirements at the state and federal level, with CEQAs and EIRs, it is not business friendly if you're going to build something new. So we have to make sure that we have nice, simple processes, the city level, the county level, because there's not much we can do with the state and the feds. But we also have to think about the tax incentives, and we have to make sure that they're not just carte blanche, 100 years, come and play with us and not pay any taxes, because sometimes all that's going to do is get us a temporary business that's going to come into the state and maybe not stay a while. They have to invest locally as well. So we want to make sure that we're bringing the businesses in, that they're the right businesses for our communities, and that we are competing on a constant basis to bring them here.
Dara Stevens.
Yes, what I would do is, like previously mentioned, is start with the issues right here in Kern County. Make sure that our planning department has the most streamlined, effective, and efficient way for people to start a business, and for them to know what is required. Since I'm a small business owner, many people have come to me and said, how do I start a business? Now, one of the ways I'd like to boost building in Kern County is just simply reduce the cost of it. How many people here know who will drive all the way across town to save 3 cents on a gallon of gas? I mean, we know it's not working. Why don't we go ahead and just cut whatever our fees are down and see if it doesn't spur building in this county? Get someone driving a nail, the wallboard people putting up wallboard, and the roofers putting on roofing. It's like we had a boost in building because they knew the sprinkler regulation was going to come in. You had to put in sprinklers in your house. So guess what? There was a little boost there at the end of the year, so people didn't have to have the additional fee of the sprinklers. Thank you.
Roy Ashburn.
Well, each of the candidates have described the problem. Let me say, remember the Mojave ground squirrel. The fight over the Mojave ground squirrel was not over the squirrel, but it was over regulations that impacted residents and homeowners and landowners here in the Indian Wells Valley. And people could not use their property, not to build or to pave it over, but simply to divide that property and to record that division. There were those who said that we couldn't fight it because the state or the feds or somebody else. And you and I joined together, and we did something that had never been done before. And we took on the fight over the Mojave ground squirrel, the symbol of an impact on private property ownership and the productive use of our land, and we won.
David Freeland.
Sure. Chip talked about, I think, 3 out of 50. I think it actually California is like 50 out of 50 as far as not being business friendly. We're at the bottom of all the states. Why is that? It's been said we're overregulated and we're overtaxed to death. My wife and I, when our tax bill comes in, I don't know how we make our ends meet. It's terrible, and we got to fight those things. You may be aware, maybe not. The state of California is always trying to dip in and create this oil severance tax for our oil industry. You know, Kern County oil industry is #1 in the state. They want to tap on a 12.5% wellhead tax. And fortunately, Kern County has fought that, and I'm proud of it, and I'd continue to help fight that battle. Those are tangible things. Lorelei is probably going to croak when I say this, and maybe other people too, but why couldn't we have reduced or no property tax for a startup business for 2 years to give them a chance to get their feet on the ground? And I think the county could survive just in the jobs that would bring in and just the morale that would bring up if you started a business and you didn't have to pay property tax for 2 years. I think that would be a wonderful idea, and I think we could pull that off.
Thank you for your answers. All right. Let me see. This is a long question. Unemployment rates in the 1st District from the state of California, Department of Labor, February 2012. IWV, 9.5%. Ridgecrest City, 8.9%. Kern River Valley, 15.42%. Shafter, Delano, and McFarland, 31.5%. Johannesburg, 21.6%. These numbers are averages for census tracts within the 1st District. There are areas within each census tract that reflect higher rates, such as Onyx at 36.4%, Delano City at 37%, and areas that reflect far lower numbers, such as Kernville at 2.2%, Squirrel Valley at 0%. All I'm asking for here are comments. Sam Ramirez, 2 minutes. Answer.
We definitely need to always be aggressive in addressing our unemployment rate. You know, for people that want to work and are able to work, for us not to have jobs available, especially for our veterans. I know that there's a program now about hiring veterans, and that's important. You know, I think that at the very least, if you serve your country, there should be a job waiting for you. But we also need to grow jobs and grow our economy. The city of Delano is primarily agriculture-based. It's been that way for 50, 60 years. And so we've been trying to grow out of it. Paramount Citrus, they're the maker of the Cuties for Kids. They're building a $100 million expansion in the city of Delano. They came to the city council and said, we need to be open by fall of 2012. Do you think you can make it happen? And we put all forces behind this project, and we made it happen. And I think that that's the type of effort that needs to take place throughout Kern County, but more specifically the 1st District. McFarland and Shafter, those are areas that, again, are agriculture-based. Shafter's trying to diversify itself, and we need to make sure that we're always aggressive in trying to promote ourselves. We're in a competition. A few years ago, I had an opportunity to go to China, and it was the city of Delano and the county of Imperial. Imperial County also has a high unemployment rate, and I think to myself, this is who we're competing against. This is, they're trying to promote themselves to try to bring in businesses. There's a conference every year, international conference of shopping centers. We need to make sure that we promote ourselves. Kern County is centrally located. It's along 2 major freeways in the 5 and the 99. It's along major rail access, and it has a ready and willing workforce. That's in addition to military facilities that are available in our area, and so we need to make sure that we promote our attributes and we're competing with other counties, we're competing with other states, and we need to do everything that we can to make sure that it's in our favor.
Chip Holloway, 1 minute response.
The biggest problem and the reason that number exists, the number one, we've all said it 50 times a night, is restrictions and regulations. So I'd like to take another tact. Education and a library system that's under assault. Just like cutting your assets to economic development when you have a budget problem, the next thing we cut is libraries. Kern County, 46.4% of the residents in Kern County in 2000 census were on low or median income. That's devastating. That number has got to have increased because every other number increased in the 2010 census. What's even scarier is in our 1st District, Delano has 62%, Lake Isabella 69%, McFarland 70%, Oildale 54%, and 60% of their residents are under that low or moderate income. And that means they make either 50% less than median income, which is about $42,000 in Kern County, or 80% less than median income. So we've got to give them the benefit to succeed. And we keep cutting the budgets of the things that we succeed at while we give more money to keep prisoners happy and get them in hospitals. Our veterans can't get health care, but our inmates can get health care. We got to start reprioritizing where the dollars go. Okay, I heard you.
Heidi, Carter-Escudero. I know.
I don't hear goodness here. I just want to know.
He's always trouble. I have to agree with him on this one, though. We have a lot of jobs. You open the paper. There are jobs in the oil industry. There are jobs in agriculture. We don't have people with the degrees and the experience and the skills to fill them. We have to make sure that when we have a college, that the degrees are appropriate for what we need in our community, that they match the needs that we have with our current industry or with the industry that we're trying to court. We also have to assume not everybody's going to go to college, folks. They're not. But if they're not going to go to college, we can't wait until they may or may not graduate from high school to start getting them the vocational training that they need. We have plenty of vocational opportunities. We have apprenticeship opportunities, and we need to be able to engage these youth because some of them are just going to leave thinking that they can make it, get by, and reality is going to slap them in the face. Because when it's all said and done, the moment they walk out of our influence, once they reach that age of 18, it's too late. They're on the course to poverty if they haven't already come up with a plan, and we have to make sure they have that plan in place.
Dara Stevens.
Well, that's part of the problem when you read the paper. You got to get out in the street and talk to the people that are unemployed. The Kern River Valley may only have a 15% unemployment rate, but I guarantee you most of the jobs are at minimum wage. So I was recently at the Board of Supervisors hearing in Bakersfield where where the directors of the county explained their budget to everyone. Did you know the Board of Trade does not do anything to encourage vacationing within Kern County? It only encourages people to vacation out of county into Kern. That's a tremendous amount of leakage that needs to be directed back to our county, back to the Kern River Valley, so job creation would start with the money that was created right here. And then obviously we know about the regulation issue. I have this small business. Did you know that the state of California now charges me on every car I sell? A brand new regulation. And once they open up the door for regulating me, where are we going to cut? So we need to keep the money here. That'll keep the jobs here. You keep the jobs here, you keep the tax revenue here.
Roy Ashburn.
Well, the question is unemployment rates, and California's unemployment rate is among the highest in the country, and Kern County's unemployment rate is extremely high. And I'll say again that the solution to unemployment is the creation of jobs. And the impediment to the creation of jobs in California and in Kern County are regulations and taxes and assessments and fees and hurdles and burdens and time delays that have been established by government. And so we need to change the Kern County attitude from looking at our businesses in a process approach and instead an outcome approach, to make sure that we speed through permits, that we make sure we reduce regulations in every opportunity, and that we do reduce the costs and the burdens on the creation of jobs in our county.
David Freeland.
You know, I'm really proud to live in Kern County. You know, it really is a diverse county. It's got all the ingredients for jobs. It really does. You know, and again, I've said that at every forum, and I'll keep saying it until this campaign's over. A county supervisor must protect the economic engines of the District 1. Again, it's China Lake Naval Weapons Center here in Indian Wells Valley. It's recreation tourism in the Kern River Valley where I live. It's agriculture and oil on the west side. Those have to be protected. They have to be enhanced. Those are economic engines that create jobs. That's the big picture. I'm big into youth, too. When I was a district ranger, we hired a lot of interns, and we hired senior citizens. I would like to see a lot of our youngsters get in interns in small businesses, where Darius maybe would hire a youngster out of high school, maybe at minimum wage to start. Or if I was county supervisor, I'm going to have interns in my office, and I want to hire these folks so they can learn and get into the workforce with a good work ethic. So I think, and that would apply to our seniors as well.
Mick Gleason.
Real quick, I agree completely with you, Chip, about libraries, and I suggest that instead of any of us using it as an individual platform, we all commit tonight as a team to say no matter who wins, we're going to fully support the library initiative, the $8 million budget plan they have, and it's not going to get a vote from us to the contrary. As far as jobs, unemployment rate here in the Valley, we got a decreasing DoD budget. No matter what you hear, no matter what you think, it's going down. It's going to impact jobs. It's going to impact China Lake. What we need to look at is opportunities. The way we do that is look at UAVs, look at the BRAC, view the BRAC as an opportunity, and look at opportunities for developing energy in the Valley. Lake Isabella in the Kern River Valley, the dam. The dam repair has a chance of impacting the local businesses, impacting budgets, impacting people and their employment. What we need to do is form a task force of civilians to monitor Army Corps of Engineers, what they're doing, and the repairs that are going on so that there's no impact in the valley. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I'll take your library challenge.
Anybody else for that library? Who's with me on the library?
I'm with you, Mick. You know that.
All right. Thank you again for your answers. And now, finally, Chip Holloway gets his 2-minute question, 2-minute answer.
Don't give me one, I don't know.
Okay. What can Kern County do about the traditionally low college-going rate in the county? Is this a problem the county should even deal with?
All we've talked about tonight is jobs. And if we're going to do anything about jobs, we've got to be engaged in the conversation with our school districts, our community colleges, and Cal State Bakersfield. One frustration for me is that we have totally abandoned vocational education in the state. And if there's a county that needs vocational education, it's Kern County. Because the kind of jobs that we create in Kern, we create all ranges of jobs. We got rocket scientists right here in Ridgecrest, but over in Delano, they got guys that could make a great income working on pumps in farming industry and the oil industry with good high-paying jobs for blue-collar workers. Yeah, we've totally abandoned them. We've taken the approach that everybody is going to go to college and come out and work on the internet or start a .com or you name it. But the Kern County can't, at that level, we can't do a whole lot about it. I don't recommend funding education at the county level. We've got enough public benefits that we're trying to disperse at the moment anyway, but we definitely need to be engaged. We need to have partnerships. There is some opportunities in regionalization and partnerships. One of the ideas locally that won't work because of the location was a library. Now here, a central library for some of the colleges and the high schools in the county would make sense because location is a problem. But in parts of Bakersfield, I don't know if that's the case. But the same thing with equipment and maintenance facilities and the like. Why can't we share those type of facilities so the budgets that go to what they need to do, which is education, are not wasted on mundane overhead and operational expenses? Not enough of the dollars that are supposed to go to education go to education. They're embedded in overhead, embedded costs that nobody can get away from. And if you're not at the table, somebody's making decisions for you. So the county needs to be there. It's stated in our economic strategic plan that education is the key to maintaining the sustainability of your economic clusters, and that's why we need to be at the table. I didn't even make 2 minutes.
You made it.
I'm just now starting to get it now that I'm leaving.
Excuse me. Heidi Carter-Escudero.
Thank you. I already spoke a little bit about vocational apprenticeship, and I do think it is important to always understand we cannot assume that every child's going to go to college. But when they do choose to go to college, let's have the choices be local. Let's have the degrees that are going to keep our students here and have the industry behind it. We have perfect examples happening right now with what's going on in oil with the CSUB, and they finally are figuring out we need an engineering program. Took them long enough, don't you think, that they finally are taking the steps so that we can train those engineers locally. We have to look at those same issues over here. What are we offering at our community college? What are we offering? is it the right match for the needs that we have with our industry that's present? And when we're thinking long term, when we're trying to court those businesses, we need to match the education to those businesses.
Dara Stevens.
Yes. One of the first things I'd like to participate in is bring the jobs back to America. So we have the trade training and the vocational schools to fill those jobs. When I was here at Burroughs High School in the late 70s, they actually came around and they tested you to see what you wanted what you might be good at. And they determined I was good with my hands, maybe a mechanic, maybe, believe it or not, a barber. So I joined the Marine Corps and later became a deputy sheriff, so that didn't seem to pan out for him. But the deal is, they approach these students. They realize not everybody is going to go to college. So I believe that trade training, also known as trade school, is extremely important. But then we got to have a place for them to work. And we can only do that, as we know, by bringing the jobs back. Every time a job goes overseas, we got to remember that job left the county somewhere, or one of the two parishes that are left in America. Thank you.
Roy Ashburn.
Well, it's pretty difficult to be on the opposite side of improving education because it's the key. The county supervisor is in the unique position of pulling together the educational community. It needs to be understood, however, that the county supervisor is not the education voice. We have the elected trustees of our community college. We have the elected members of our high school governing board. We have the school board members elected by the people, and they have the jurisdiction and the responsibility for our schools and education. What the supervisor can do is to pull all of our education community together to make sure that we're addressing the needs that exist at the local level. It was mentioned here that our libraries ought to be forming partnerships with the schools. I would point to the McFarland Branch Library, which was constructed while I was county supervisor, which is the only library which is connected with the schools, and that was my innovation when I was county supervisor, to partner the schools with our library system.
David Freeland.
I advocate trade schools. When I was president of the Kern Valley Exchange Club, our scholarships in the tune of about $15,000 to $20,000 were really going to youngsters that were going to go to college. And we were finding out that there were a lot of students left behind. My son is not one that goes to college. He's a very bright young man. He's the kind of guy that would go to a trade school. And so we started giving scholarships out to youngsters that went to trade schools, and we would get them back into the Kern Valley. I hired a lot of them in the Forest Service as firefighters. And then we partnered up with the ROP, Regional Occupation Program, with Kern Valley High School. And we got our kids going through that program for firefighters. So when I hired them at the beginning of fire season, we didn't have to train them. They were ready to go. And then they went on to other occupations, either with the Forest Service or Kern County Fire Department or other organizations. So I'm a big advocate of trade schools, and I think our nation needs that right now. We're losing our skills in this country, if you haven't realized that. I think we need to really look at things differently.
Mick Gleason.
I won't make the pretense that I have an answer to this question, because I don't. Fortunately, here in Ridgecrest, we live in a model, in my opinion, a model environment where we have a wonderful community college headed by a wonderful person. We have a school district that is headed by some absolutely phenomenal people. And our schools match up with the workforce requirement. So supply is meeting demand in a healthy way, and it's getting better. So my hat's off to all the people involved with that. I'd also like to say that I don't know the answer. I would get those people in the room who do know the answer, and I would have a discussion. I would encourage a conversation. I would try to get them to find answers, and then I would take their advice, and I would try to move ahead with it. Thank you.
Sam Ramirez.
I spent 7 years in a classroom as a teacher at a high school level, and I've seen the unfortunate result of the cost of tuition, and even now, more recently, the cost of gas. I have students that want to go to college, but because the district is so big, they can't afford to go to Cal State Bakersfield, from Delano, because if they have class 3 or 4 days a week, the tremendous cost in terms of tuition, books, and now you have gas. So we need to make sure, at least on the county level, that we make sure that Kern Regional Transit continues to be funded, that continues to thrive, to make sure students that have an opportunity to go to school, that they at least have that avenue. My sister commuted on Kern Regional Transit from Delano for 2 years. She got a degree in political science from Cal State Bakersfield, and she was willing to do it. But there are many people that aren't. And because I recognize that, about 4 years ago, I worked with Cal State Bakersfield to try to get them to the table to bring at least a distance learning center to Delano. We have a community college in Delano as well, 1,200 students, and we need to make sure. But the best tool that an elected official has is the power of microphone and the power to facilitate.
All right, thank you for your answers. All right, I'm going to do one more of the prearranged questions, and this is one that's kind of a general question for everyone. And so I'm going to give you a minute and a half on it, and then I'm going to start doing the questions from the audience. Great. All right, everyone good with that? All right. What is your vision for Kern County? What will the county be 10 years from now? Where should the county be? How can you, as Kern County Supervisor for District 1, achieve that goal? Heidi Carter-Escudero.
I think it's always important to look back before you look forward. And 10 years ago, we were in a very strong place and strong position as we watched California's economy grow, and we started spending. So I think it's really important that as we look forward, and I do think that we are finally at the bottom of this economic crisis, and we're going to start to grow again. So I think as we start to grow, it's important to think about, do we immediately start growing government? And the answer is absolutely not. But what we have to do is make sure we preserve our services, the ones that we have currently. We need to prioritize what each community needs, because it's not going to be the same needs for each community. And then we start moving ahead with the vision of where we're going to be in 10 years from now, which is going to be in a better place. We are going to lure those businesses here. We are going to get through the BRAC process, and we're going to do this in a very strong way. Sorry, it's a little distracting up here. A little distracting with the questions as well. But I think that when we look forward, what we need to think about strengthening our families. We need to strengthen our communities. We need to strengthen our collaboration, because government does not do anything well except when it works with its communities.
Dara Stevens.
It is my belief that Kern County is the greatest county in the Union, with the national defense, the oil, the mountains, the deserts, everything that it has to offer here. I cannot think of another place on earth that I'd rather live. I've told folks I don't know where I'll die, but I know I'll be buried. It's going to be right here in Kern County. I want Kern County to be an absolute example to the country on pride in its efficiency and the way that it does business here for the citizens and visitors of Kern County. The way you accomplish that is having a good relationship with all branches of government, down to the city council, then flowing all the way up to the federal government. It's true, you need to have some contacts in place. And I like to think that perhaps I'm that contact to somebody. So it isn't necessarily I got the contacts in Sacramento. Perhaps if someone in Sacramento has a contact in Ridgecrest, someone down here in Kern County that grew up here. John McQuiston is going to be the next assemblyman of the new 32nd, and I know I'm going to have a contact there already, and he'll have a contact in store. So anything I can do to make Kern County continue to be the greatest county there is, that's what I'm on board for. Thank you.
Roy Ashburn.
Well, the greatest asset in Kern County are the people. And we have remarkable, wonderful, outstanding people in every community. And we also have unique natural resources. We have the agriculture, the oil, we have the mountains, and we have this incredible desert, which is home to our national security bases, which are second to none, and they're national treasure. So how can the future be anything but bright if we work together? So the question is, who will be most effective to be your county supervisor as we move forward over these next 10 years that the question asks? I have the experience of having served the people here as your local representative and as your representative in Sacramento. When I was county supervisor, we bridged the gap between the county courthouse in Bakersfield and the people in the Indian Wells Valley, and we can do it again. We also need to have the courage to take on the toughest of challenge, those challenges that others say can't be done. And if you take a look over my record of experience and service to the people, I've always demonstrated the courage to take on those toughest issues and serve the people and to get the job done. And I look forward to that. And Kern County's future, the 1st District future, is very, very bright indeed.
David Freeland.
My vision is I would like to see unemployment below double digits. I think we can do that. We do have the economic engines. We've talked about it tonight. We have all the attributes in this county that our entire nation, would love to have. So we have the attributes to do that. We just got to make that work. Our county, though, is in a declared fiscal emergency again, and for fiscal 2011 and 12. And that's sad. So that really constrains our services. So I want a county that does not spend more than it makes. I do not want a county that, I want a county that has a rainy day fund. They have contingency funds. I want to make sure we maintain those for the lean years. That's important. It's like running your household. I'd like to have a county that their pension plans are in balance with reality. I like a county that has free of waste and fraud. Unfortunately, the county's had to deal with some fraud. And we as taxpayers should not tolerate that. And we need to have meaningful measures to ensure that doesn't happen. So we've got the attributes to make all those happen, and a county supervisor's got to make sure they're on guard to follow through with it and not just give lip service. And you know who holds us accountable? You guys do. You have to make sure, if whoever's elected here, you have to make sure we do our job. A lot of county supervisors, elected officials, they come up with things, they make promises, and they don't keep them. And part of it's the fault of the people that vote for them because they don't hold them accountable. Hold your county supervisors accountable.
Mick Gleason.
Smaller government getting smaller with a focus on economic development. Our government is too big. It needs to get small. We need to reduce taxes, and we need to get them out of intruding in our way of life. This government was formed on the precept of individual liberty, not on common good. I would have put a severe scrutiny on taxes. Taxes are a good thing. Yeah, I understand the right amount of taxes. We need them to support the infrastructure and activities of a smaller government. But I would put a severe scrutiny on taxes, and I would try to reduce wherever possible. I would develop a steady drumbeat of regulatory review. I would go through periodically every regulation that's enforced in this county, and I would review it and make sure it's applicable. When I had to add a regulation, I would try to take two away. We need a responsible government. We need a government that is reflective of the people that live in that county, in that district. We need better communication. In order to achieve that responsible, reflective government, we need a county supervisor who understands the value of communication, gets out, goes to city hall meetings, goes to events, and participates in every facet of life so he's completely entrenched in that particular culture of that city or that environment. Finally, we need to unleash the power of the individual. We can't do that when we always have government telling us what we can and we can't do. Whether it's that barber or that person paying all these fees and knocking his business out of whack, we've got to get the government out of the way of the individual and let the individual succeed. Finally, the most important value is trust.
Sam Ramirez.
There's a saying, where there is no vision, the people will perish. And I think that vision looks ahead. I think it looks forward. I think that there's great opportunities for our district. I think that, I'll tell you why I'm running. And there's two stories. One is a former student of mine didn't dress out for PE. And a student had pulled down his pants and he was wearing a trash bag as underwear. Every day I see a 70-year-old walk a 6-year-old to school. And I think to myself, why is a 70-year-old walking a 6-year-old to school? Because grandparents have stepped up to the plate and raising their grandkids. And my vision is simple and it's clear. We got to help families. We got to help grandparents that have stepped up to the plate and are raising their grandkids. Because in the end, if we don't, we pay for it down the road. We pay for it when they become an inmate. We pay for it when they break into your car. We pay for it when they are addicted to meth. I think that there's great opportunities for us. I think that we need to do more to help our young people, whether it be through after-school activities, after-school sports, summer programs. We've done those things in Delano. I want to do those things, emulate them throughout the first district, and I plan to. And my vision, isn't an easy vision. There are going to be continued challenges, but I think that collectively, if I can get 2 supervisors to share in my vision, if I can get staff to implement my vision, if I can get the community to buy into my vision, I think that we'll be able to achieve some great things. Will it be able to do overnight? No, not. But I think that we can do so much more than we've been doing.
Chip Holloway.
I know I'm going to get cut off, so I have a flyer. It's available in row number 2 here. There's a section here that says Big Ideas, Big Dreams. And the only reason it says Big Ideas and Big Dreams is because I've been doing this 14 years. And I think Roy will tell you, just because it makes sense doesn't mean it can necessarily happen. So those are the challenges I'm willing to take up. But, I've been fighting on several fronts for 14 years. And something hit me really hard. I was at a meeting just recently. And it was a discussion about the desert tortoise. And we've got a spot. It's called Ivanpah. It's actually not Ivanpah, I'm sorry. It's in Nevada. And it's a area where they're trying to protect the desert tortoise. And they relocated about 40 tortoises at a cost of $250,000 per tortoise. Yet somewhere in California tonight, a senior is going to go without a meal. We owe opportunities, equal opportunities to everybody in this county. We don't offer equal opportunities, equal outcomes. But I don't know that we offer that same opportunity to turtles. I don't think that's what we're required to do as government. And we've got to refocus our priorities. I think we have 3 industries in Kern County that we ought to be recognized worldwide for. Alternative energy. We fight over who came up with the phrase, we should be the Mojave Desert of alternative energy, but I think we're on our way there. That was a minute and a half. Mm-hmm. And see me after the show.
Okay. This time I'm not going to use the order or whatnot, so it's anyone who wants to answer brave enough to answer the question the first time they hear it and go first. And everybody has an equal amount of time. I'm not going to be quite so strict on the time limits since it's audience questions. All right. Reducing and controlling costs of county operations in this time of economic crisis is critical. Please describe the efforts you propose to control employee costs and pension obligations in Kern County.
I'll take it. That means I get an extra 3 minutes. One of the first things, not the first things I learned, but one of the things I've learned constantly as an elected official is the law of unintended consequences. And every time we create a policy in government sometimes to solve a problem, we create 15 other new problems that were never foreseen. And one of the first things I would like to do, and I would like to do this without county funding or very minimum county funding, is work with Cal State Bakersfield, Saracosa Community College, and go back and start reviewing ordinances in a way where we take the ordinance and see what the intended consequence was to begin with, and review it and see, did it solve the problem we were trying to solve, or did it create a bigger problem? It's scary now that business in California has 2 new line items when they do a business plan, and it's called return on taxation and regulatory efficiency, which is the value of permitting in relation to what the project is. That's scary that those have now been added to business plans. But in any new ordinance, if I was going to approve any new ordinance at Kern County, I would absolutely require that it had a 5-year review period. Now, they tried this at the state level, and they couldn't get it done. But that's just one thing I would do. The pension reform has to be done in the next 24 months. They're a long way down that path, a long way further than they were even 6-7 months. They got some of it done this week. But pension reform is not going to be solved with a 2-tiered system. You cannot get there from here. You've got new hires is not going to solve the problem. It's changing the 3% at 50 on only new hires is not going to be enough to solve the pension problem. So they've made great strides in that in that effort, but they still need to go and do more. And the other thing I want to bring right away is a task force, and I'm willing to pay for this because I think it will actually bring a benefit, is for waste, fraud, and abuse. Because my fiance works right out here in the audience. She works with a Kern County program, and I can't tell you how my eyes have been opened. We all want to do the right thing for people in need, but we are hurting the people who truly need services from the county, because people have to learn how to subvert the system and muck the system to get their own personal benefits, are taking away from resources for people that truly need it. We've got seniors in Lake Isabella that can't get Meals on Wheels. We've got seniors in Ridgecrest that can't get services. Meanwhile, we've got people that could be working, that could be gainfully employed, sitting at home playing games on an iPhone with their Nike sneakers on. And we need to start doing that. We don't want to put any money or resources to waste, fraud, and abuse, but we keep adding and adding and adding to the budgets of these programs. And we need to stop having programs that are defined successful by adding more people with benefits. We need to define a program as successful by removing people that need those benefits. Can I have more time?
Just
okay, I'll shut up.
That's enough.
I was shocked.
Well, the question was over pension reform and the cost of our employees. The biggest cost in government are the cost of the workers for our government in their salaries, their benefits, and their pension. And pensions were granted at a time when, frankly, the economy was better. And it was anticipated that growth in the pension funds was going to continue at very substantial rates on into the future. And we all know what the economy has done, when we all know the decline in the value of whether it's your IRA or your public pension, and the ability to fund those. And so, given the reality of the day, we are going to have to seek concessions and changes from the workers that will reduce the cost to the taxpayers, because the taxpayers expect the service. We have good employees who do a good job, but the cost of sustaining those pension obligations is simply beyond what we can afford, and changes are going to have to be made. Now, this is a complex matter because the courts have consistently held that pension benefits granted cannot be taken away. And so you do have to talk about those new hires being in a different pension system or a different rate for their pensions. And we need to work cooperatively with our employees, because the courts have protected that which they have been granted, to make sure that concessions are made so that we can bring down costs for the current workers as we change the pension system going forward.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Can I talk on this one? Yeah? Okay.
Of course.
I agree with a lot of what Roy said. We are 41% funded on our liabilities on our pension in Kern County. The state is broke. We're going broke. We've got to change what we do. The threshold normally is 80% funded for our liabilities. We're at 41%. Ain't going to cut it. We're using an annual return rate of 7 3/4. We ain't going to cut it. We need to make some changes. Zach Scribner, the chairman on the retirement committee, his pension committee, has been doing a pretty good job and put forth a pretty reasonable solution in my mind of reducing the 3 at 50 to 2 at 50. And he's working together with the unions who are cooperating fully with this thing to get ourselves to a point where we can have some light at the end of the tunnel. The bottom line is a pension promise is a commitment, and we cannot default on that commitment, and I would never suggest we do. But I agree with everything that's been said. We've got to attack this problem. We've got to get in front of it, because the retirement fund is increased $20 million this year. So if that comes right out of the general fund. So that's another $20 million that can go to the libraries. But it ain't going to libraries because it's going to pensions, people retiring when they're 50 years old and then going on and doing multi-careers. So it's a difficult situation. We're going to face facts. We either alter the pension formula or we get concessions from older folks. Thanks. Heidi.
I think what a lot of people don't understand is that it was a mistake. It was just absolutely a mistake. And now we're paying for it, and we're going to be paying for it because, like everyone has said, we can't go back on the deal that was made. It's good news that we're now going to be negotiating down to 2.5. But what's even more terrifying is that the state already mandates that the best that we can do is 2 at 50, when And that's just for our public safety. It's not for the average employee. It's not for someone like me that worked at the county that came in. I pay 100% of my retirement. I pay 100% of my health benefits because it has gotten to that. New employees are going to be paying their fair share. That is the deal for the new employees. How are we going to continue to change it, though? Because I think that we need to go to the state and say at 50 isn't the deal, because the rest of us are seeing our retirement ages going up to 72. And I do respect that it is a higher level stressful job, but what I see are firefighters and sheriffs retiring and going on to second careers. Oh, but they can't work their second career, so they come and file for disability because of an injury that they received when they were firefighters. It's kind of out of control. It's kind of out of control right now when we saw our fire chief retire at 100% of his pay, and he's still considering going for the disability portion of it. There's something broken, and it is very broken, and it's not us against the unions. It is us. We have to solve this problem as employees, and we have to solve this problem as elected officials, and we have to solve this problem as union leaders. The negotiations aren't really happening the way they need to be happening because the rest of the world has moved on. They don't get the pensions and they don't get the benefits that the county employees get. And the rest of the world has moved on. They're not getting those benefits. We have to really examine what is the role of a county employee. Most of us do the job because we love it. And we don't come here for the benefits, and we don't come here for the pay. We come here because we want to serve. And I don't think that's ever going to change for a firefighter, for a sheriff, or for a county employee. But we have to have a real conversation about the long-term prospects for government and the employees that work for government, because we need them. They do the jobs no one else wants to do.
Anyone else want to?
May I?
Yeah.
What was the first half of that question?
It was, please describe your efforts to control employee costs and pension obligations.
Yes, I want to discuss about having a more efficient county government. I'm just going to give one example here. You have Adult Protective Services and you have CPS. I do not understand why they don't fall under one branch of government. Just throwing it out there. When they have more than one branch of government, you have a whole new class of the middle range supervisors there and a new director. As a supervisor, I'd like to see which bureaus can be combined. There actually was a plan for this a long time ago in the county. It's called a super bureau. And back in the mid-1990s is when APS, Adult Protective Services, was divided from Human Services. So it's just an example. I think there's a little inefficiency in our county. I believe it would save approximately, because of the 6 supervisors in the chain of command, approximately $1 million a year. So I'm just letting you know I've had this from working in the county 25 years, and I'd look to see how to make it more efficient for you to keep the employee costs down.
Anyone else?
I'll go. I think one of the best ways to address some of the issues related to benefits and pensions is to grow our economy. You know, a few years ago when we were doing well, nobody was complaining about the cost of pensions and benefits. And so we have two options. Either one, to reduce those costs, or two, to increase our economy. And I think that as a supervisor, that's what I'd be looking for in terms of increasing our economy. I think that there are opportunities where we can save dollars, whether it be merging departments or even a purchasing partnership program, where every year the county purchases, whether it be equipment, vehicles, office supplies, and the same thing is done at cities level, at school level. And so if we can somehow buy in bulk some of those things, that's $1 that we save. And for every $1 that we can save is $1 that we can spend on seniors, spend on employee-related costs, spend on libraries. And so I think that's what we need to focus on in terms of improving our economy and making sure we're aggressive when it comes to that.
Anyone else?
Well, you know what? I wasn't, because, when the horse is dead, you're supposed to dismount. And we pretty much covered this. But, it really does frustrate me that us taxpayers, we're having to fork out another $20 million a year for at least the next 3 years to cover these county pensions. And that really is tough because, that really does hurt our libraries. And these are discretionary dollars that we use for libraries and parks. Bob LaRue is a very good friend of mine. He's a parks director, and I have lunch with him once in a while. And it's sad to hear what he has to go through to keep the toilets open, But I'm very proud of the county supervisors because they're in negotiations with the unions. Are in the step in the right direction. If you've been following the latest pension reforms, I think it's good. I'm not one that says we should take existing employees and severely cut them back because they have mortgage payments and they had a contract with the county. And that needs to be left alone. Possibly if they pay into their health insurance and retirement, that's okay. I always did. That wasn't news to me. And then the new employees, they'll have their eyes wide open when they come in, and they know what they're going to get themselves into, and they can sign that dotted line. But paying $20 million a year of discretionary funds is not right. And so I'm glad, and as a county supervisor, I would continue that discussion to make sure we can get those pension plans in balance with reality.
Anyone else? All right. Actually, I've got, if people keep bringing up the libraries, there's actually a couple of questions here that deal with the library. Kern County Libraries ranked down 170 out of 178 reporting California libraries. Spending $9.79 per capita versus $32.70 mean per capita. Budget cuts have been severe and continue. Would you be supportive of increasing the budget of this vital community resource?
I've already done it. When I was county supervisor, we increased funding for the libraries. We increased the book budget. We built the Beale Library. We built the McFarland Library. We built libraries in the Kern River. We built the library in the Kern River Valley. We refurbished the library in Kernville. And so I've already demonstrated my commitment to the libraries. That commitment remains very strong.
Yeah, but then when he was senator, he raised our taxes, cut our fundings, and increased our mandates. And so I think that ultimately, we got to look forward. And I mean, this is libraries are important. In Delano, they're only open 3 days a week. They used to be open 5 or 6 days a week. And I know Ridgecrest suffers from some of the same hours that are cut. And so there are plenty of opportunities to, again, partner with school districts, at least for summertime, at least during those winter vacations. I mean, a lot of times during the summer, they're used as cooling centers. They're used as cooling centers for our seniors or for those that are making, very low wage and don't have the amount of money for electricity cost. A few years ago, I sat at our local library reading the newspaper, and there was a woman that was disappointed, and I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "I need to get here before 2:30 because when I get here after 2:30, the kids use all the computers because kids want to be on the internet, they want to use computers, and there's only about 8 computers available in Delano." And so as a result of that conversation that I had with her, I identified some community development block grant money, and I worked with my colleagues to earmark that money for a technology center. I'm proud to say that they're refurbishing an old child care facility, and it's going to have 60 computers available for our community. It's going to have iPads that are available for people that read books on. We got to make sure that our kids have the tools, but we got to make sure that our seniors have the right opportunities as well. And libraries historically have been those places as the great equalizer. And a lot of times you can check out books, read the local newspaper, read the updated magazines for free. And so but during budget time, our priorities are reflective during the budget. And so if our priorities are funding the libraries, then that needs to be reflective in that budget.
The answer for me is yes. I would definitely consider supporting an increase in the budget for the libraries. I think the libraries, from what I saw in Delano and in Ridgecrest, are heavily used. They're a solution to so many problems, providing opportunities for kids, for young people, for old people, any race, any ethnicity. It all works for everybody. It's a common good. We need to do that, and we need to provide that so that educational opportunities improve throughout the whole county.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I'll go ahead, Chip, if that's okay. You know what? I've used libraries. My kids use libraries, and my wife, during her lunch break, she goes down and uses the Kern Valley Library when it's open. And, those libraries are so important, along with our senior centers and things like that. You realize that our country's, about $15 trillion in debt. Our state's $12 billion, they claim, but I know it's much higher. That's just on paper. Our county struggles. And libraries and parks and the like, or senior centers, those are places people go when there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress in our communities right now if because of the situation we're in. People are worried, and they need places to go. It's a place for people to just unwind and to learn and to break stress. So I certainly do support libraries. I answered back to a gentleman here in Ridgecrest what I do, and first thing I need to do is learn about the library system. No county supervisor is an expert on most of these subjects. We've got to get help, and I'll admit it. I just don't know that much about the library system. So I would want to get people together that know the system, the paid staff, librarians, the volunteers, and the users, and talk about ways to support the library. Not only if we can get more money, but how are other ways to do that? We've got to think out of the box, and then work with at least 2 other county supervisors and see if we could get a few more dollars, hopefully a lot of dollars, what the trade-off's going to be. How's that going to affect planning if they got fewer dollars because libraries got more dollars? These dollars just don't appear. So there's got to be trade-offs. And are those trade-offs and risk acceptable? I think we could. I think we can do this. And I'd like to take the lead and the charge on that, because libraries, again, are so important.
I want to do something publicly that I really hate to do. So hopefully no cameras are running, but
There's a few.
I want to say that I made a mistake on this issue initially, and I was wrong. I always supported libraries. I think Marsha's out there, but when I had Wiener Schnitzel, and I was always happy to throw reading coupons or whatever. But when it came up to the local discussion about libraries, my knee-jerk reaction was the library was a dying entity because of the internet and all the technology. I had a knee-jerk reaction, assumed that. And I've got to believe, because I have so much respect for our current sitting supervisors, especially the ones that have been there a while. And I know their priorities, most of them, and their principles. And I got to hope that somehow that's kind of where they were, and they just didn't really get it. But I saw, I was doing research for this job. We pay $125,000 a year to keep a juvenile in custody, but we don't want to fund our libraries. I could say a whole lot, but just doing that a little bit. $125,000 a year to keep a kid in custody, but we don't want to fund our libraries, which is a better payoff. And that will be my litmus test as I go through a budget. Will that investment give me a return on my dollar? And I think things like the Board of Trade and libraries will always give us a return on our dollar.
Sam might find this interesting. My children used to go to the library just about 2:30 when they got out of school. So they were probably part of the problem. But it wasn't in Delano. It was right here in Ridgecrest. And so I know firsthand, being a parent right here in Ridgecrest, the libraries they're very important. My children liked going there. All the resource materials were there. And they'd go there and have a good time. And believe it or not, they would self-educate themselves. That's what homework's about. They'd find all their information there. So have no doubt, I would support libraries in Kern County.
I worked for the Las Vegas Clark County Library District. 14 libraries, 12 of them had art galleries. I was a gallery manager. That is what libraries can look like when they're a priority for your community. They can be amazing places. Doesn't mean we're going to build one like we've got up in Fraser Park every time we have money to spend. I think we had some bad leadership. I think we had good vision, bad leadership. And I think that we're going to see some changes coming up for the library district. But we have to be realistic about how much money we do have to spend. Even our discretionary budget is fairly small. So how do we maximize it? How do we really get to the point where our libraries can be restored to the community centers that they used to be? The places where kids can go during those critical 3 to 6 o'clock hours when they're either going to be getting high on meth, because at the age of 12, your children are being offered meth for the first time, or engaging in other activities because they don't have a place to be from 3 to 6. Teen pregnancy, these are real issues in Kern County. Libraries are part of that solution. So we need to recognize that they are on the front end of prevention. But we also have to think, how are we going to do it? Grants are great opportunities. Some of the grants that they're getting right now surrounding the obesity issue are allowing their libraries to do things like WeFitness. They are becoming the community centers that they used to be, using the new technology, looking at what kids are interested in, bringing them in. But we also have to look at how can we partner with businesses? How can businesses help us? Where do they fit into the equation? And how can they sponsor programs that are specific to the area that they're in, the region that they're in, and the community that they're in? What are the needs, and who are those, and who can those people be? Because government has to work with the community, and they have to work together to solve these problems.
Anyone else? You know what? We are approaching the end of the 2-hour time slot for this. So.
No kidding.
That went fast.
Yes, it was.
Nobody's sleeping either. Everybody's awake.
So, what I would like to do is, if anyone has a very brief closing statement that they want to make, they may do so.
Oh,
no. No?
Oh, no.
No? You want to be done?
No. We don't have short ones.
You don't have short ones? Yes, of course. All right, no short. All right, if there's no short closing statement. In that case, what I'd like to do is I'd like to thank everyone for participating in this forum. I'd like to thank everyone I'd like to thank certainly all of the candidates for being here. The only candidate missing was Deborah Hess, and she had a prior engagement, and that's the only reason that she's not here. And so, on behalf of the American Society for Public Administration, Kern County Chapter, I'd like to thank all 7 of the candidates who came to the forum, and I especially would like to thank the audience for their questions, even though I did not get to all of them.